Good afternoon. My name is Rosemary Fallu, and I'm the Deputy Director and Chief Counsel of the EDGAR Business Office at the SEC. Welcome to this EDGAR Next webinar. We hope to provide you with helpful information about EDGAR Next today that will assist you in complying with the EDGAR Next changes. If you've participated in our previous webinars, some of the content being presented today may be familiar to you, but we've attempted to add new information and content based on questions and comments we've received and to highlight additional issues. To maximize our time together without distraction, the chat function will be turned on for the Q&A at the end of the webinar only, and not during the presentation portion of the webinar. We expect many of your questions will be answered during the presentation. Please note that today's webinar is being recorded. We will be posting that recording together with the slide deck to the EDGAR Next page on SEC.gov and to the SEC's YouTube channel. The disclaimer: this presentation represents the views of the staff of the EDGAR Business Office, but does not necessarily reflect the views of the Commission, the Commissioners, or other members of the staff. It is not a rule, regulation, or statement of the Securities and Exchange Commission. The Commission has neither approved nor disapproved its content. As with all staff statements, this information has no legal force or effect. It does not alter or amend the applicable law, and it creates no new or additional obligations on any person. Our agenda today: we're going to do an overview of EDGAR Next. There'll be a dashboard demonstration. Then we're going to talk about the enrollment that is required to file starting on September 15th. We'll go over frequently asked questions. And then we will highlight some resources available. And we will then open up the chat and conduct the Q&A. And with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Daniel Chang, Senior Special Counsel in the EDGAR Business Office.
Thank you, Rosemary. Okay, let's start with an overview of EDGAR Next. Next slide, please. All right, what is EDGAR Next? EDGAR Next is designed to improve EDGAR security, filer access, and account management processes. The EDGAR Next adopting release contains more detailed information, but we will do our best to provide a brief summary here. Although EDGAR Next encompasses a variety of changes, there are three in particular we'd like to focus on for today's discussion. First, current EDGAR uses entity-level access codes with no individual-level authorization or multi-factor authentication. EDGAR Next addresses this issue by introducing individual account credentials with multi-factor authentication from login.gov, which allows for identification and tracking of individuals logging into EDGAR. Second, filers currently share access codes potentially via various unsecured methods, such as by email, post-it notes, or over the telephone. EDGAR Next addresses this issue by providing a new filer management dashboard to manage filers' accounts and filing permissions in a standardized, transparent manner. The dashboard will include the names of all individuals and delegated entities who are able to act on the filer's behalf in EDGAR, and those individuals will be able to see the filer's information in the dashboard, including CCC as appropriate. Third and lastly, filing agents currently engage in web scraping to create custom filing applications that are not formally supported by the SEC. EDGAR Next addresses this issue by providing application programming interfaces, or APIs, to allow filing agents and filers to directly connect to EDGAR via machine-to-machine connections to provide improved stability and performance for custom filing applications. Next slide, please. All right, great. So, scope of EDGAR Next. All EDGAR filers must comply with EDGAR Next. This includes all entities, such as registrants and filing agents, as well as individuals, such as Section 16 filers that file on EDGAR. Note that in lieu of the term filer, we may also use the terms EDGAR account or CIK. Next slide, please. Transition to EDGAR Next. On March 24, 2025, the EDGAR Filer Management website was updated. Among other changes, the new dashboard allows filers to more easily manage their accounts. As part of this process, the legacy filer management functions have been removed. The dashboard can be accessed by providing login.gov individual account credentials and completing multi-factor authentication. This provides security for account management purposes. The dashboard will allow filers to enroll in EDGAR Next and submit Form ID to apply for EDGAR access. All existing EDGAR filers will be required to take action to enroll in EDGAR Next, whether those CIKs are associated with registrants, filing agents, or individuals making beneficial ownership filings. If an existing CIK is unable to enroll, then the CIK must reapply for EDGAR access by submitting Form ID. However, all new CIKs created after the initial compliance date of March 24, 2025 are automatically subject to EDGAR Next and will not need to subsequently enroll. This is because Form IDs submitted through the dashboard require the filer to specify the identities of the prospective account administrators who will be managing the filer's accounts. Enrolled filers can use optional APIs to make submissions, retrieve information, and manage their EDGAR accounts. Next slide, please. Transition to EDGAR Next. Starting September 15, 2025, all 3 EDGAR websites will require individual account credentials and multi-factor authentication for access purposes. In addition, filers that have not yet enrolled in EDGAR will no longer be able to file until they enroll. Once again, the caveat is that filers who have submitted Form ID through the dashboard and have had those applications granted by SEC staff will not need to enroll, because those filers will have already specified their account administrators on Form ID. On December 19, 2025, enrollment ends. Filers that have not yet enrolled will lose EDGAR access until they submit a Form ID application that is granted by SEC staff. Next slide, please. Individual roles in EDGAR Next. Diagram 1 relates to the authorization of individual roles and is taken directly from the EDGAR Next adopting release. It shows the relationship between the different roles and how those roles can be added. Let's go through each of these roles in more detail. Account administrators will manage the filer's account on the dashboard, including adding and removing individuals, performing annual confirmation of dashboard information, delegating authority to file to other CIKs, and generating or creating custom CCCs. A filer can have a maximum of 20 account administrators. Users will make submissions on behalf of the filer and can view the CCC. A filer can have a maximum of 500 users. Technical administrators will generate filer API tokens and manage the filer's connection to APIs. A filer can have a maximum of 20 technical administrators. Note that this matches the limit for account administrators, which is intentional so that a filer who wishes their technical administrators to also be an account administrator can do so. There will be roles for each person authorized to act in EDGAR on behalf of a filer. Each of these persons will be required to obtain individual account credentials from login.gov, which they use to identify them. For that reason, these credentials cannot be shared with others. These credentials, together with multi-factor authentication, will be used to verify their identity each time they log into EDGAR to take actions on behalf of filers. This will provide traceability and accountability for filings and other actions taken in EDGAR. In contrast, going to SEC.gov to view filings on EDGAR will not require individual account credentials. Next slide, please. Diagram 2 shows the key functions for each role and is also taken from the adopting release. An individual may have multiple roles at the same time for the same filer. An account administrator can perform all the functions of a user plus also manage the filer's account. So it would be meaningless for an account administrator to also be a user for the filer. Thus, for a given filer, an account administrator cannot also be a user, but the account administrator can be a technical administrator. In contrast, for a given filer, a technical administrator can be a user or an account administrator. There are no restrictions in terms of roles across filers, so an account administrator at one filer can be a user at another filer. In addition, for delegation, there will be delegated administrators and delegated users. If a filer delegates to another CIK, the account administrators at the delegated entity CIK automatically become delegated administrators with regards to that delegation. Those delegated administrators can determine which of their users will be delegated users who make filings with regards to that delegation. Next slide, please. Diagram 3 shows how delegation works and is also taken from the adopting release. In this diagram, filer A is delegating to filer B, who may be a filing agent, law firm, broker-dealer, or some other entity who will be filing on filer A's behalf. The account administrators for filer B are delegated administrators with regards to that delegation. Those delegated administrators can file on behalf of filer A and can also authorize users from filer B to become delegated users who can file on behalf of filer A. No individual from filer A can see or take any action on filer B's dashboard, and no individual from filer B can see or take any action on filer A's dashboard. Next slide, please. 15 APIs introduced by EDGAR Next. As previously mentioned, EDGAR Next will permit filers to use 15 optional EDGAR APIs. These will allow machine-to-machine communication to EDGAR for submission and retrieval of information. In order to use these APIs, the filer will need to have enrolled in EDGAR Next or submitted a Form ID application that is granted by the Commission staff on or after March 24, 2025. Next slide, please. API tokens used in EDGAR Next. The EDGAR Next APIs will generally require security tokens to be presented for identification and access purposes. The filer API token will identify the entity using the API, such as a law firm, broker-dealer, filing agent, or filer. The user API token will identify the individual using the API, who will need to be a user or account administrator of the entity. The filer API token may be shared between a filer and a delegated entity, and vice versa. In contrast, user API tokens may not be shared. Next slide, please. There are various options for using API tokens. For example, in scenario 1 below, if the filer wanted one of their employees to use the APIs directly, the filer's employee could present the filer's API token and the employee's own user API token. Conversely, in scenario 4 below, if the filer delegated to a filing agent, law firm, or broker-dealer and directed that entity to use the APIs directly on the filer's behalf, an employee of that entity could submit the delegated entity's filer API token and the employee's own user API token. Note that in scenario 4, the filer would not have to obtain a filer API token, and the filer's employees would not need to obtain user API tokens. At this point, I'd like to turn the presentation over to my colleague, Margie Marrero, Senior Special Counsel in the EDGAR Business Office.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, I'm Margie Marrero. We're going to show you a short video from our YouTube channel overview of an account administrator role. And after the video, we're going to go over screenshots of the dashboard to explain the enrollment process and the dashboard functionality in more detail. This YouTube video, along with 4 other videos, are available as part of our EDGAR Next instructional video series. Next slide, please.
This video provides an overview of the account administrator role in EDGAR. Each filer must authorize account administrators to manage the filer's EDGAR account. These individuals must have login.gov individual account credentials associated with the email address they will use on EDGAR. Individual and single-member entity filers only need to authorize one account administrator, although it is recommended that they authorize 2 account administrators. All other filers must authorize at least 2 account administrators. Filers may not authorize more than 20 account administrators. Account administrators can be authorized in different ways. Existing filers enrolling in EDGAR Next must authorize account administrators through the enrollment form. Applicants for EDGAR access must authorize account administrators on the amended Form ID. For existing filers, the filer's account administrators can add and remove other account administrators on the dashboard. If you are an account administrator, you can manage the filer's EDGAR account on the dashboard. When you log in, the individual dashboard will appear. Under My Accounts, you will see the filers for which you are authorized and your role for each filer. From the individual dashboard, there are a number of actions you can take. You can apply for EDGAR access and enroll in EDGAR Next on behalf of a filer for which you are authorized. In the upper right-hand corner, you can view notifications and edit your information. You can also manage your user API token. To navigate to the filer dashboard, select a filer under My Accounts. Here, you can take a number of actions to manage the filer's account. At the top of the filer dashboard, you will see a button with the due date for the filer's annual confirmation. An account administrator must annually confirm on behalf of the filer that the filer's users, account administrators, technical administrators, and delegated entities are authorized by the filer to act on its behalf, and that the filer's information on the dashboard is accurate. Before beginning the annual confirmation process, as an account administrator, you must carefully review all information on the dashboard for the relevant filer and ensure its accuracy. Then select the Annual Confirmation button at the top of the filer dashboard. Read and respond accurately to the prompts to complete annual confirmation for the filer. Under Manage Individuals and User Groups, you can invite individuals to be users, technical administrators, and account administrators, authorized to act on behalf of the filer. Select Add Individual to invite an individual to act in a certain role. The individual will be authorized in that role if they accept the invitation. To remove an individual or edit the individual's role, select the ellipsis under the Actions column. Under Manage Individuals and User Groups, you can group subsets of the filer's users into user groups for your convenience. Under Manage CCC and Password, you can generate a new CCC by selecting Generate CCC. The newly generated CCC will display and will be visible to the filer's authorized account administrators and users. Create a custom CCC by entering your selected CCC, re-entering it, and saving. Under Manage CCC and Password, you can manage the filer's legacy EDGAR password. This password will be required to log into the EDGAR filing websites during the transition period. EDGAR will discontinue use of the legacy password when the transition period ends. Under Manage Delegations, you can delegate to another EDGAR account the authority to make submissions on behalf of the filer. Delegation may be appropriate where there is an existing agreement with the other EDGAR account, such as a filing agent or law firm, to make submissions for the filer. Select Add Delegation and follow the prompts. An account administrator for the prospective delegated entity must accept the invitation for the delegation to be effective. You can also cancel the delegation on the dashboard. Under Manage ABS Issuer Activity, ABS issuers can submit a request to create an ABS issuing entity. For additional guidance on EDGAR Next, review the EDGAR Next resources on SEC.gov. And for information on other EDGAR Next topics, please see the separate instructional videos on the SEC's YouTube channel.
As stated in the video, you need to sign in to the EDGAR Filer Management Dashboard via login.gov to see your individual dashboard and to access the EDGAR filing websites. The EDGAR Next FAQ page has multiple answers regarding what to do if you're having problems with your login.gov account in connection with the EDGAR Filer Management Dashboard, including what to do if you deleted your login.gov account or need to update your email address. Login.gov will not be required to see publicly disseminated EDGAR filings on SEC.gov. Next slide, please. After signing in to the EDGAR Filing Management Dashboard via login.gov for the first time, you will see your individual dashboard homepage. Both options to enroll and to apply for EDGAR Next access are immediately available until December 19th, 2025. My accounts, retrieve submission information, and my user API token are not available until you have been authorized for a CIK, which is enrolled in the dashboard. As you can see, multiple useful links are on the bottom of the page, including the EDGAR filing website, a link to the EDGAR Next main informational page, and CCC reset for enrollment for those who need to update their codes for enrollment via token reset. Password reset is available only until September 12th, 2025. Once enrolled, you can still file through the EDGAR filing website. The APIs are optional, not mandatory. Next slide, please. For manual enrollment, from the Enroll in the EDGAR Next tab, select Manual Enrollment to start the process. Remember, if you have a CIK and can currently file, you can use manual enrollment with your CIK, CCC, and passphrase and enter the information for the first 2 account administrators. If you need to update your passphrase for enrollment, you can do it from here. After entering your CIK, CCC, and passphrase, select Verify Entity. If you receive an error message, try resetting your codes to ensure they can be validated. No additional paperwork is required. No power of attorney is necessary for enrollment. All other power of attorney requirements regarding EDGAR filings have not changed. Next slide, please. Enter the information for the initial 2 account administrators, including email address, business address, and phone number. The options to indicate single member company and the option into receiving delegation requests are also available. Individual filers, such as 16 filers, are not required but are encouraged to add a second account administrator. The email address must be the same email address used for login.gov. You can update your individual profile on the dashboard at any time. You will also select your annual confirmation compliance date during enrollment. It can be changed after enrollment. Please note, updating filer address and company name information has not changed and will still be done via retrieve edit data on the filing website. Next slide, please. There's also the option to use bulk enrollment by using the formatted CSV spreadsheet available on the dashboard. Complete the downloadable CSV for up to 100 CIKs using the same information needed for manual enrollment. There's a PDF guide explaining the required fields and option fields in the CSV to indicate single member company and the option into receiving delegation requests. Again, no attachment other than the CSV is involved for bulk enrollment. This can also be done via API. Next slide, please. Again, the information for bulk enrollment is the same for manual enrollment, but uploaded by spreadsheet instead of using the online user interface. In the column for single member company, individual filers enter NA, single member companies enter 1, and all other filers enter 0. Please see the PDF guidance if you have any questions of what to enter in any of the fields. Next slide, please. New filers can apply for access as soon as they have access to the dashboard via login.gov. Next slide, please. The process of filling out Form ID is very similar to the current Form ID that you're used to. Select if you're a company or individual filer and complete all the required information. Print the application for notarization and resume and submit the notarized application for staff review. Next slide, please. As you can see, a few functions have been moved since the overview of account administrator role video was created. User groups have moved to manage delegations. Manage ABS issuer activity has moved to filer view for the CIK. After enrollment, as an account administrator, you can select a CIK to manage and it can immediately start inviting additional account admins, tech admins, users, and manage delegations. An account administrator can also immediately make themselves or other account administrators tech admins. No invitations or acceptance necessary for enrolled account admins. Options to manage CCC and password are also available. Password will be removed starting September 15th, 2025 from all EDGAR websites. API filer tokens are only available after 2 tech admins have been added to the filer account. Next slide, please. Select My Accounts to see all the filer names and CIKs you've been authorized. If you're associated with multiple CIKs on this page, we'll show you all the CIKs you have permissions to file for and what roles you have, and if you have a status that is active or pending. This information is also available via API. The dashboard will also show you when you were invited and where invitations were accepted. These dates will be the same if added by manual enrollment or Form ID. You can review the annual confirmation date. You can see and change delegation status and settings. Please note the default view is 5 items per page, and you can change the page to 10, 25, or 100. Next slide, please. After you've selected a specific filer CIK from My Account, in the Manage Individual view, you can view all the individuals with accepted and pending invitations, their roles, and contact information. At the top of the screen, there's a drop-down menu of all the CIKs you have access to, and the individuals associated with the CIK selected will appear below for the selected filer CIK. As you see in the middle of the page, the primary EDGAR POC is the account admin you wish for the SEC staff to start with for staff questions. This can be changed to and by any account admin at any time. The default is the first account admin enrolled on the dashboard. Once enrolled, the EDGAR POC can only be updated via the dashboard. Currently, there are no other changes to retrieve edit data. In the future, some functionalities may be moved to the dashboard. You can see, in addition to individual roles, the contact information, phone and email, for all the individuals with active roles. Pending invites only show email. The address information from the enrollment for the account administrators is only viewable to the SEC staff for the individual other than yourself. On the right-hand side of the page, you can take actions to add individuals and change individual roles, including removing yourself from a CIK. Next slide, please. You can add an individual by clicking on Add Individual on the right-hand side of the page and enter the individual's email address, which will be associated with the login.gov for the individual you wish to invite on the dashboard for the filer listed at the top of the screen. If the individual already has a profile on the dashboard, their name will appear in the pop-up box on the screen. If individuals do not have happen to be enrolled on the dashboard for the invitation to be created, the individual does not have to have a login.gov account at the time of the invitation, but they must have a login.gov account credentialed to create a profile on the dashboard and to accept the invitation. Select the roles you wish the individual to have and click on Add Individual. Invitations must be accepted within 14 days or they expire. Next slide, please. You can see delegations related to your filer CIK, which have delegated to you and delegations received. You can also manage the user groups created to help manage delegation filing authority if you have multiple authorized filer CIKs and multiple users. You can view delegations to, delegations received, and user groups individually or in grid view. The delegating filer's CIK name, status of delegation, last update, and actions on the delegation are available from this view. There's an option to accept or request multiple delegations via bulk action also. Next slide, please. Please note, the CCC is updated upon enrollment. Select Manage CCC and Password to view the current CCC. All account admins, users, and delegated account admins and delegated users can see the CCC. There are two options to update the CCC after enrollment. The Generate a New CCC button is the same as the current functionality, but has been moved to the dashboard and only updates the CCC for this field. Password is updated separately. Or you can update the CCC by creating a custom CCC. There can only be one CCC at any time. Please remember to coordinate updates and check for updates prior to making a submission. Next slide, please. As stated before, the option to manage CCC by creating custom CCC is still available, but no longer requires a password. Again, the CCC will be visible to all individuals who have been authorized to file. Only one CCC will exist at a time and can be changed at any time by any account admin. Please plan accordingly. see the What is a CIK confirmation code at the top of the page for more information on what the 8-digit code requires. Starting September 15th, all parties authorized to file on behalf of CIK must be authorized on the dashboard. Next slide, please. During the transition period, you can update the password so you can continue to file into current file directly on the EDGAR filing website. The update password function will be on the dashboard during this transition period. Starting September 15th, 2025, password will no longer be used to access the filing website. You must be enrolled and use either login.gov or the APIs to file. Next slide, please. Going back to the dashboard landing page with your individual dashboard view, there are 2 new functions you can access from this page. Retrieve submission information by a session number. This function remains available on the filing website, but has different information available. And the user API tokens for you to use if you're using APIs to file. Totally optional. Next slide, please. To create or copy your user API token, select the My User API token from your individual view. Select Create User API Token, and then you can download or copy your user API token. This token will remain on the dashboard for 30 days. After 30 days, you'll have to create a new API token if you want to use the APIs. If you're not using the APIs, you don't need to create a user token. Next slide, please. Again, from the individual dashboard homepage, select My Accounts to see all of the filer names and CIKs you've been authorized to file for, or pending authorizations, and what roles you have for each CIK. You can retrieve submission information. You can create and copy user API tokens. You can enroll or apply for EDGAR access from this page. You can link to EDGAR filing websites from this page. And prior to enrolling a CIK, you can reset a password CCC from this page. Next slide, please. And from the filer CIK dashboard, you can review the filer account information, including the CCC. Please note the filer name and address is still updated on Retrieve Edit Data and cannot be done on the dashboard. You can perform an annual confirmation. You can manage individual CCCs and delegations, and manage filer API tokens. And now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Loretta, to further explain enrollment.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Margie. As Margie mentioned, I'm Loretta Finch, and I'm a Senior Special Counsel in the EDGAR Business Office. We'll now be discussing the enrollment process. Next slide, please. Enrollment is a streamlined process that allows existing EDGAR filers to transition to EDGAR Next in a simplified manner. A benefit of enrollment is that it does not require presenting a Form ID, notarization documents, or a power of attorney to SEC staff. Filers enroll by submitting the information requested in the Enroll section of the dashboard on the new EDGAR Filer Management website. Enrollment requests are typically processed and effective the same day they are submitted. Existing filers should not attempt to enroll on Form ID. Next slide, please. With respect to the timing for enrollment, enrollment is required in order to file on EDGAR beginning September 15th, 2025. I'll say that again. Enrollment is required in order to file on EDGAR beginning September 15th, 2025. Who should enroll? Enrollment is required for all EDGAR filers that obtained their CIK number before March 24th, 2025. Filers whose Form ID applications for EDGAR access were submitted and granted by SEC staff on or after March 24th are automatically subject to EDGAR Next through their Form ID and do not need to enroll. Each filer may enroll only once, and only one individual can enroll each filer. Therefore, each filer should coordinate with all individuals and entities who currently file on their behalf to determine which entity or individual the filer will authorize to enroll it, and ensure that others do not attempt to enroll the filer without authorization. Next slide, please. Compliance with EDGAR Next is required to file on EDGAR as of September 15th, 2025. Beginning September 15th, filers will be unable to file on EDGAR until they have successfully enrolled or have obtained EDGAR access through a Form ID application that was granted by SEC staff on or after March 24th, 2025. Enrollment will end on December 19th, 2025. Filers that have not yet transitioned to EDGAR Next will need to submit Form ID in order to regain EDGAR access and file on EDGAR. Next slide, please. The information required for enrollment. Filers should prepare to enroll by ensuring that they have the following information: the filer's CIK, CCC, and passphrase. If the filer has not reset its CCC and/or passphrase since September 2019, the filer should reset these codes prior to enrolling. The name, email address, business address, and business telephone number for each account administrator are also needed, as well as the quarter end date by which the filer will perform annual confirmation on EDGAR, either March 31st, June 30th, September 30th, or December 31st. And an indication of whether the filer is a single member company is also needed. Because we have received questions around this, particularly with regard to Section 16 filers, please note that filers are not required to obtain login.gov individual account credentials in order to enroll themselves. However, for the filers that choose not to enroll themselves, they must authorize an individual or entity to enroll them. One key point about who you authorize to enroll a filer: please select someone that you trust. This can include, but is not limited to, the filer's employee, the filer's filing agent or law firm, or other trusted entity or individual. We remind you that the person or entity the filer selects to enroll them will have sensitive information about the filer's account necessary for enrollment. So again, if the filer is authorizing another individual or entity to enroll them, please select someone that you trust. Next slide, please. What is not needed for enrollment: no power of attorney is needed to enroll. Filers authorize account administrators by providing their name, their information during enrollment, and providing the filer's CIK, CCC, and passphrase. Filers are presumed to have authorized the person enrolling them by providing that person with the filer's CIK, CCC, and passphrase. Notarization is not required. Next slide. Only 2 account administrators can be authorized during enrollment. More account administrators can be added on the dashboard after enrollment. We encourage all filers to authorize 2 account administrators during enrollment, but individual and single member company filers are only required to authorize 1 account administrator. Nevertheless, we do recommend that individual and single member company filers authorize 2 account administrators to avoid access and account management problems that may arise if the single account administrator is unavailable. Next slide. The benefits of early enrollment. Filers that have successfully enrolled or have been granted access after submitting Form ID on the dashboard on or after March 24th, 2025, immediately have the option to use APIs. Filers can make submissions and manage their accounts using APIs. And to use the APIs, the filer or delegated entity will need to present both a filer API token and a user API token that they generate on the dashboard. Next slide. There is no downside to enrolling before the September 15th, 2025 compliance date. Filers can continue to file as they do now until September 12th, 2025. Submissions on the EDGAR filing and EDGAR online forms websites will continue per the existing process for all filers, regardless of whether they have enrolled, until the close of business for EDGAR on September 12th, 2025. Next slide, please. As you may know, among our EDGAR Next online resources, we have a series of frequently asked questions, or FAQs. We invite you to visit the FAQs frequently, as we often update them in response to questions we receive from the filing community. I will now go over a few of the recent additions to our FAQs that are particularly important as we approach the September 15th compliance date. Next slide, please. Individual account credentials. With respect to the required individual account credentials obtained through login.gov, we have been asked, can I have more than one email address associated with my login.gov account? For example, if I already have a login.gov account that I use for personal purposes. The answer is yes, but you must log into EDGAR with an email address that was used to invite you on Form ID or in the dashboard. So again, the answer is yes, but you must log into EDGAR with the email address used to invite you on Form ID or in the dashboard. Another question we received, can I use a group email box for my login.gov account? No, you must use an individual email address, which will be used to identify you and to send you EDGAR notifications. Your email address will be visible to others on the dashboard. That is why you may want to consider using an email address other than that used for personal purposes. Additionally, you do not need to be a U.S. citizen to create a login.gov account. We have more detail on each of these individual account credential issues in our FAQs and other resources on our EDGAR Next page on SEC.gov. Next slide, please. Enrollment. We have some very important information about enrollment to convey as we approach the September 15th compliance date. Is there anything unenrolled filers should do before the September 15th, 2025 EDGAR Next compliance date? Yes. Please ensure that the filer or its filing agent can access the filer's EDGAR point of contact email address. As of September 15th, 2025, filers without access to their point of contact email address will not be able to enroll and may need to submit Form ID to reapply for access to their account. If the filer must submit Form ID to reapply for access to its EDGAR account, please see How Do I Prepare and Submit My Form ID Application for instructions that specifically regard applying for access to an existing EDGAR account and for current average Form ID processing times. Starting September 15th, unenrolled filers will not be able to access the EDGAR filing websites. Therefore, before September 15th, unenrolled filers should update their EDGAR point of contact email address so they can reset the access codes needed for enrollment or confirm that their codes are current. What should the filer do if it cannot find the access codes needed to enroll? And by this, I mean the CCC and passphrase, or if those codes are outdated, and outdated codes are ones that have not been reset since September 2020, since September 2019. The filer should not submit a Form ID just because they cannot locate their access codes. Instead, the filer should reset its access codes and then enroll itself in EDGAR Next. And we'll come to specific guidance regarding how to reset or reconfirm those codes. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. I covered this one. Resources. We have a variety of resources to assist filers transition to EDGAR Next, which can be found on our EDGAR Next webpage on SEC.gov. This includes background information on EDGAR Next and detailed guidance addressing the transition. Next slide, please. Our website also contains FAQs, as I mentioned, and step-by-step filer guidance in the form of how-do-Is, including one specific to enrollment and how to enroll without submitting Form ID. Additionally, there are recordings and slide decks of our prior webinars and instructional videos posted on the SEC's YouTube channel. Please consult the EDGAR Next webpage frequently, as it will be periodically updated to provide additional guidance and address new issues. Next slide, please. Here we highlight our API guidance, which is also found on our EDGAR Next webpage. Newly listed here is the sample filing application, and that link is located on the left rail of the EDGAR API Development Toolkit. Next slide, please. Also, among our resources, we have specific guidance for filers that do not have their CCC or passphrase, or those two codes are not current, or they're not sure whether those codes are current. And both of these codes are needed to enroll. If the filer has not reset these codes since September 2019, please reset them before attempting to enroll. If the filer does not have or know its current EDGAR passphrase, but does have a current EDGAR point of contact email address on file with EDGAR, where it currently receives emails from EDGAR, the filer can obtain a current passphrase by following the guidance provided in How to Enroll Without Form ID. If the filer cannot access its current EDGAR point of contact email address, the filer can update it before September 15th, 2025 to an address at which the filer can receive email by following the instructions in our guidance titled Reset Your EDGAR Passphrase EDGAR POC Email. I'll reiterate, as of September 15th, 2025, the EDGAR Next compliance date, filers without access to their point of contact email address will not be able to enroll and may need to submit Form ID to reapply for access to their account. So please ensure before September 15th that the filer or its filing agent can access the filer's EDGAR POC email address. Next slide, please. As mentioned, the CCC is also needed along with the passphrase to enroll. If the filer does not have its CCC, it's not current, or it doesn't know where its CCC is, the filer can reset or obtain a current one by following the instructions in How to Enroll Without Form ID. For more information about access codes, please see Understand and Utilize EDGAR CIK's Passphrases and Access Codes. Next slide, please. We have filer support for EDGAR Next. Please note that the filer support team may be contacted by email and telephone with questions regarding EDGAR Next. Next slide, please. Filers may also sign up to receive emails of all EDGAR announcements as shown in this replication of the EDGAR News and Announcement page. Next slide, please. We have concluded the formal part of our presentation. Can we please engage the chat feature now so that we can answer questions?
Okay, so maybe we should try to go through these one at a time. The first question I see is, it's recommended that a director who sits on multiple boards have one person from each public company act as an account administrator. So, you know, I think we are trying to not be prescriptive here, but provide filers, filing agents and law firms the flexibility they need to sort of tailor things based on what they think is appropriate and what they're comfortable with. I think one solution is there could be an account administrator from each company for the Section 16 filer, or the Section 16 filer could say, look, you know, I have a principal person, my right-hand person, that person's going to be an account administrator, they're going to handle everything, and everyone needs to go coordinate with them. So, you know, I think there's multiple ways it could be done. There's not a specific prescriptive outcome that we're mandating here. The next question is, in the current Form ID questionnaire, the title field is limited to 60 characters. In our experience, this limitation has often been the most common reason for Form ID rejection, since we're not able to include the full and accurate title of the authorized signatory. Could you clarify whether it plans to expand this field to provide guidance on how filers should handle long or accurate titles within this constraint? So, oh yeah, so I mean, I think it's fine to use abbreviations and shorthand. So it looks like what they're referring here is the title of the person signing the Form ID. An example they provide is by a power of attorney, person name, managing director of managing member of issuer. You know, I think you can use, you know, shorthand or abbreviation. You can use CEO instead of spelling out Chief Executive Officer. You know, so definitely feel free to do so in order to communicate that information.
Dan, can I just add, it's a known frustration, and we are looking into changing that character field so it can be less frustrating.
Yeah, and in the interim, use reasonable abbreviations. We'll understand what that means. I'll take the one about the SEC's review process. Form IDs used to only take a few days prior to EDGAR Next, but after the new platform's adoption, this process has taken 2 to 3 weeks or longer in some cases. What's the plan to improve these wait times, especially considering the inevitable influx of submissions that will come after the 12/19 enrollment deadline? Well, as you know, throughout the federal government, there was a loss of personnel this spring. And so we did lose personnel at the same time as we were transitioning to EDGAR Next. So there were other reasons why there may have been some longer wait times. However, we are adding staff now, and we do believe the wait times are improving. I would suggest that folks look very carefully at their applications, because I understand that the longer wait times usually occur because there was some error and the application has to be reviewed more carefully. So that does increase the length of review. So I would urge you to watch the videos and follow the instructions very carefully when submitting Form ID. That will help you. And we are also adding staff at this time, and we do believe that the wait times will be shortened very shortly here.
Just note that so there were a question about the slides being posted and where they would be. You'll be on the EDGAR Next page. I posted the link in the chat. And the question about creating passphrases will still be available from September 15th to December 19th. It's on the page to enroll. It's not on the bottom links, but it will still be there.
There's a question here for Section 16 officers that the issuer company manages / completes form filings beyond having account administrators at the issuer company. Does the company CIK need added as a delegate in order to successfully file by the account admin or user? So it's a little hard to parse what they're saying, but essentially, if you want someone else to file for you, they need to have permission. So either, you know, they need to be a delegated user, delegated admin, or they need to be a user or an account admin. So, you know, if you want someone else to file for you, whether they're you know, an officer, sorry, they're the issuer for which you're a Section 16 officer, whether they're a law firm, whether maybe it's a broker-dealer, you know, you need to delegate to them or else individually have that specific person added to your account as a user and account admin. So you have the choice there about how you want to do this.
There are multiple questions about people that don't have current codes and can't access the email. Unfortunately, the answer is if you can't do one or the other of either resetting the codes or changing the email, you're going to have to submit on Form ID for an existing CIK. And please do it well in advance of whenever you need to make a filing.
Yeah, but just to clarify though, the first option should always be to reset the codes. And the way you can do that is to reset the email. You know, I would definitely try that first. If you can't do that, then go ahead and file Form ID. But because Form ID, you know, it's relatively streamlined, but it will take you some time to fill out, and then it will take some time for staff review, which could be, you know, a couple days or more. So if you can reset the codes yourself, you know, you'll be enrolled within seconds. So it's much faster to reset the codes yourself if you're able to do so.
And if you, I mean, for those that don't have codes and don't have an email, see if there's anybody that you have filed with that has active codes enough that they can change the POC email so you can use the tokens. The filing agents, a prior law firm, if you've worked with them before, they may still have it and can help you change the POC email so you can get the CCC and passphrase. So try to coordinate because you don't want to submit the whole thing. But if you cannot find any other way, yes, unfortunately, the only way to do it is Form ID. So try hard.
And we do have guidance on our EDGAR Next page on the right rail. There's a PDF titled Reset Your EDGAR Passphrase, EDGAR POC Email, and that does at the bottom provide specific instructions as to how you can update your POC email for yourself, for your client, working with the CIK password and CCC. So if you can do that, we have significant guidance on how to reset these codes and ways to do that so that you do not have to file Form ID. So we strongly encourage you to look at that guidance. And also beginning September 15th, if you do not have access to your POC email, it becomes much more difficult to, you know, change with the access codes, but we do have guidance coming on how to do that. But the point is, please, please, please make sure that you have access to your point of contact email address before September 15th. That is the one thing that even unenrolled filers must do now before September 15th.
I'll take the one about what do I anticipate the processing time to be for a new Form ID for an existing filer post 9/15. I would urge you, if you believe that you are going to need to file Form ID, there is no need to wait. You should go ahead and complete the form and apply now. And that way you can be sure to have the review conducted in a timely fashion. If you know you're going to need to file Form ID, do it now. What do I anticipate the processing time to be? I can't be sure because a lot of folks may not be able to get in through their codes or using their email. If that's the case and we get a very large volume of Form ID, I can't be precise into how long that will take to process. We only have a limited number of people and we do review each form. So I can't give you an estimate. I hope for the best, but I think you should plan for the worst. And if you know you're going to need to file, go ahead and do it now. Make your application now.
So there's a question.
For the person that can't update their contact information on the dashboard, please send an email to the EDGAR Next at SEC.gov team with a screenshot, and they can help you. Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Okay, thanks. There's a question that says, we have been testing live filing on EDGAR Next using a third-party software. When entering the accession number into EDGAR Next into the dashboard, the information of the filing populates. Does this mean that it was indeed filed via EDGAR Next? I don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean, my understanding is that function will just pull the information from any filing, regardless of whether or not it was filed by an enrolled filer or not. I think the way to test whether or not you're using a third-party software through EDGAR Next is that when you log on to a third-party software, does it ask you for individual account credentials? And do you have to go through multi-factor authentication? If not, then it looks like, then I don't think you're going through EDGAR Next yet. You're not necessarily, doing that. And the EDGAR Next functionality hasn't yet been implemented for the filing website, so I just don't think that would be the case, that you would be sort of filing through EDGAR Next. The one way you would be is if you're doing it through the API somehow. If you've pulled down a token, if you're doing it that way. But otherwise, you'd have to wait until September 15th to file through EDGAR Next.
There's a question about if you received a delegation to file, can you give that delegation to another CIK? You cannot daisy chain delegation. It has to be a direct relationship or the system will not validate.
There's a question, will the actual EDGAR filing website change? Can you show us how to link to that from the dashboard? So the website URL should remain the same. The content will change, and they'll have an interface that will require you to log in with your login.gov credentials and multi-factor authentication. But once you get through that, you should be in pretty much the same filing website that you were before. But the URL should remain the same.
There's a question, why can you not enroll in EDGAR Next without your POC? If you have your codes, can you apply without your POC? Yes. If your codes are current, you can apply without access to your POC email. However, we're letting people know that if you were to encounter some problem and your codes were not current for some reason after September 15th, then you would need to be able to access that POC email in order to reset them. So it's best to make sure you have access to that EDGAR POC email box, or go ahead and make sure your codes are current right now, or go ahead and enroll right now. That would be our advice on that.
So there's a question, how do you remove yourself? Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
How do you remove yourself, account administrator, from the CIK when another account administrator is taken over? So the dashboard, there's functions to add or remove users, and you can add or remove yourself. So you can go ahead and do that manually. Or if you're using the APIs, you can also submit requests through the API to have yourself removed. So either way, the APIs essentially do the same thing as in the dashboard. So most of the functions through the dashboard can also be done through the APIs.
There are a number of questions about if you should be somebody's account administrator or the delegated administrator, and how do you select that? That's a relationship between all the parties involved, and you can choose to have somebody be your account administrator for enrollment purposes and then have them delegate to themselves and no longer be an account administrator for you. It's flexible. It is up to you on how you want to set up your relationships, and if you want it for just enrollment or forever. We don't really have a model that says you need to do it one way or another.
So there's a question, how to determine our POC? I've been filing for 10 years, never received an email. So you can go into the filing website, the EDGAR filing website, and log in and go to retrieve edit data. And then you can check your company information. So the address, the billing contact, and the POC, the EDGAR point of contact. It'll list the email address for which all official EDGAR notifications and emails will be sent to that email address. That's the EDGAR POC. So if that's not you, you can go ahead and update it as long as you have the right access codes and just change it to a different email address that you can receive. There's a question, if an invite expired, how do you resend it? So, let's say you were invited to become an account administrator, or your entity was invited to become a delegated entity to make filings on behalf of a filer. If you don't accept those invitations, then they will expire. You cannot automatically re-trigger them by yourself. You would have to reach out to that person and ask them to re-invite you. The one exception is you can send a request delegation invitation to someone where you're asking them to delegate to you. So if they delegate to you, you don't accept, you can send them a request delegation invitation. So these are all in the dashboard. All these functions are there. So just when you open up the dashboard, you can see these different options.
For the question about do CCCs expire? They do not expire, but for enrollment, you need to have created them after September in 2019. And if you don't know, just reset it, reconfirm it. But once you're on the dashboard, you can keep it. I mean,
there's also a question about, it's specific to filing Form 4s. Will we be doing this through the dashboard after EDGAR Next is live? Well, I'll speak to all of our filings. So you will be actually making the filings through our EDGAR filing websites, which would be the EDGAR filing or EDGAR online, but you will manage your account through the dashboard. So the dashboard is the EDGAR website where you manage your account, you can add individuals, etc. You'll receive your notifications, but you actually, to make your filings, you will go to one of the other two EDGAR websites.
I see a question about changes to any due dates. No, all the underlying substance of EDGAR doesn't change. The forms, the due dates for the forms, all of those things remains the same under EDGAR Next. In terms of a documentation or record requirement for the annual confirmation, we are not requiring any documents to be kept. We're not doing any exams on documents or records. We're simply asking you to complete the confirmation to confirm that things are indeed accurate.
There's a question, when selecting the annual quarter confirmation due date, if you select September, will those annual confirmations be due September 25 or 26? They'll be due September 25. And the idea is you need to confirm within a year or less. So you can choose a lower, faster threshold. And, ideally it shouldn't be a big lift because you ideally should have just input information. So if you want to make it September, it should be pretty easy to confirm. And from then on, you're staggered with the September date. There's a series of questions, you know. Sorry,
go ahead, Dan.
There's a lot of questions about the, okay. Go ahead.
I'll take the one, does an account administrator need to also be a technical administrator? And if so, what is the difference in the roles? So before going into that, I'll also say that I've seen many more times in the chat, will this video recording be available? And yes, it will be. We'll have it on our EDGAR Next page in the section for webinars. So yes, you will be able to access this video recording very soon. But as far as does an account administrator need to be a technical administrator? No, they are two distinct roles. Can an account administrator also be a technical administrator? Yes, but the role of the technical administrator is to manage the API, the filer API token, but the account administrator has many more roles. The account administrator can submit the filings, generate or change the CCC. They can manage the account administrators, users, technical administrators, make delegations. And all of this is on one of the slides in this presentation. We have a slide that goes into detail on the key functions for each role. So again, an account administrator can be a technical administrator, but it is not required. You can have them as two separate individuals.
So there's a question, individuals that currently complete EDGAR filings pre-EDGAR Next enrollment using only a CIK and password will need to create login.gov credentials and be given user access by an account administrator in order to file post 9/15. Is this accurate? Essentially, yes. So if you want to make filings for a filer, you need to have login.gov credentials and be authorized either as a user, account administrator, delegated user, or delegated administrator. So probably if you're currently serving in that role for that entity, you'll probably be a user. A delegated user would be someone who serves in that same role, but you are at a delegated entity such as a filing agent or law firm, broker-dealer. In that case, if the client delegates to your entity, you would be a delegated user for the client.
There's a question about will CCCs be needed after transition? Yes, CCC will continue to be needed to file on EDGAR going forward. We don't foresee eliminating it at any time in the foreseeable future. And then also there was a question about whether you could reset your CCC to the current CCC. The dashboard does permit that. Please do keep in mind, however, that it's a sensitive filing code, and we do urge people to change their CCCs frequently just in order to maintain the security of their account. There's another question about filing Form ID without a notary. You do need to have a notarized signature on Form ID in order to submit it. However, EDGAR does accept online remote notarization. For example, state of Virginia permits remote online notarization, and you can do that online without having to physically go to a notary.
There's some form-specific questions about Form D and 17H about how they're changing with EDGAR Next, and none of them should change. I mean, once you get into so EDGAR Next for the filing websites is essentially an overlay for logging in purposes and for filing authorization purposes. But once you log into the filing websites, everything should be pretty much the same as it was before in terms of how you navigate to the forms, how you file the forms, the mechanical process of clicking on things. It should be very similar.
There's a question about
if we set up through EDGAR Next using CIK, CCC, and passphrase, should you be all set? So I believe what you're saying is that you've enrolled, that the account has 2 account administrators. And so just please be aware that whenever whoever it is that goes to log into the filing websites, they should be authorized on the dashboard. So in other words, they're going to enter their login.gov credentials, they're going to complete multi-factor authentication, but whoever that person is who wants to do the filing, they have to be either an account administrator for the filer or they have to be a user for the filer. And that means they have to show up as one of those on the dashboard. So your dashboard has to have the people that you expect to take the actions in those authorized roles.
For the question about retrieve edit company data after September 15th, when there's no longer a password, it is now going to be replaced by login.gov and your login CIK. So make sure that you choose the login CIK that you want to do for retrieve edit data, or it's not going to like your permissions. Or you can be a delegated admin, but just make sure that the permission models that you're doing. So if you have two different companies that you work with and they have no relationship on the dashboard, it's not going to like you. But if you use the correct CIK for who you want to go do the retrieve edit data for, it should be just fine. You don't have to have a password. The login.gov covers it.
There's no plans to make the user API token last more than 30 days before it expires. With respect to Canadians obtaining notarization, we do accept foreign filers obtaining notarization through the remote online notary process through one of the states in the United States that does recognize that. All account administrator, if you are using the API, you need a user API token. But if you're not filing through an API, you don't need any kind of token. You can just file manually. If you're using an API, you need a filer API token, and you need to have your own user API token.
So there's a question about, can you give an overview on whether the average Section 16 filer needs to worry about setting up API/technical administration with their accounts? So first and foremost, the Section 16 filer can delegate that entire filing process to a delegated entity. If the Section 16 filer wants to use an API token but does not have the technical administrator, they can use, if they have a delegated entity, the Section 616 filer can use their own user API token, and they can connect to or use the filer API token and API connections of their delegated entities. So there are two ways to go about it. They can either delegate the entire process of filing over to a delegated entity, or the Section 16 filer, as long as they have a delegation with a delegated entity, they can use their own user API token along with the delegated entity's filer API token.
There seems to be a misconception about login.gov. I see a question about IDs other than U.S. driver's licenses being valid to establish login accounts. You do not need to present a U.S. driver's license or any other documentation to establish a login.gov account. Please look at our guidance and you can find out more.
There's a question, do we get reminder notifications when it's time to complete the annual confirmation? Yes, you will. The account admins will get notifications. I forget the exact time frame, but I think there's like a 30-day, and there might be like a 10-day and a 5-day.
You'll get many notices, and you'll get a confirmation. You'll know when it's completed as well. You'll get plenty of notifications around annual confirmation.
I'm not sure if the adjustment.
Let me just finish up with annual confirmation. There's no fee associated with failing to complete it. You get a 3-month grace period, and then what happens is your account will be locked, and you'll have to file Form ID to get back into EDGAR. So for that reason, it pays to just go ahead and complete the annual confirmation, but we're not assessing any fees.
So there's a question, I'm not sure if we answered this one before, but it's an important one. Are there any, they're all important, but this one is, are there any changes to the due dates for filings? No, there are no changes to the due dates for filing. EDGAR Next, we're not, changing the rulemakings for our other divisions and offices of the Commission. So there will not be changes to the due dates of filings due to EDGAR Next.
Yes, the annual confirmation is different than the annual update on Form MA. Annual confirmation just has to do with the EDGAR account and the EDGAR dashboard. It doesn't have anything to do with underlying requirements to file. So EDGAR Next is not actually anything separate from EDGAR. What EDGAR Next is, it's the very front end of EDGAR. It's how you log into EDGAR. So you shouldn't be seeing any changes with respect to any of the substantive requirements about how the forms look thereafter. Anything you have to file on EDGAR, you have to enter login.gov credentials, you have to be enrolled, the person logging in has to be authorized. But after that, all your filing obligations are the same. The way filings are made on the websites. Of course, now you do also have the optional APIs for submissions.
So there's a question, can you explain optional API tokens? Do administrators need a token to file or maintain? And I think this is sort of addressed, but I just want to be clear. So the APIs are optional. They are ways to do things in bulk through automation, through machine-to-machine connections. You don't have to use them, so pretty much everything that's done through the APIs can also be done manually. We expect the APIs will be mostly be used by the bigger filers, by the filing agents, by the law firms. You don't need to use them. So if you don't want to use the APIs, you don't plan on using the APIs, then you don't need to get a user API token or a file API token. But if you do want to use the APIs, then you need to get the tokens to identify yourself, or else make sure that someone will be getting the tokens. So for example, if you want to authorize a filing agent to file on your behalf, the filing agent will have to submit the tokens. And in the proper context, if you delegate to them and they're authorized to file on your behalf, then they can submit the tokens for you. And then they can submit, their file API token to identify themselves. And if you fully delegate to them where you say, look, go ahead and just file for me. I want you to push the button. I want you to do everything. I want you to schedule it and do everything. Then they can also submit a user API token for one of their users. But it's just a simple delegation process. You can just tell them, just go ahead and file for me. That's what I meant by fully delegate.
I see some people are having errors and getting frustrated, and it's they might be encountering something when they're in the system. We do have a help email. We do have a phone number for you to call. Please go to the EDGAR Next page on SEC.gov. You can find everything there. If you are experiencing any errors or problems, we do want you to reach out to us and we'll help you resolve those.
Oh, this is an interesting question. This person is asking why they're getting so many email notifications when they make an update in EDGAR. And it says for each update they make, they get 5 emails. I'm wondering if this person might be an account admin for 5 different CIKs. And so when something happens, each one of those account admins will get notified. So keep in mind, you may get multiple emails in multiple contexts if you are an account admin for multiple CIKs.
I also put in the chat that on the notifications tab, there is the option to change selecting into and opting out of getting emails. So if you don't want to get emails, you just want notifications on the dashboard, you can make that choice.
So I see somebody asking, if we're a current user and have access to EDGAR, do we need to complete Form ID? So if what you mean is you are a current filer on EDGAR If you have not enrolled yet, and you have not filled out a Form ID since March 24th, and you haven't enrolled, you do need to enroll. And I would encourage you to go ahead and enroll right away. And if you go to our website, you can see and follow things in this presentation and YouTube. We've got a ton of resources and we'll help you to enroll. But if you've been an EDGAR filer all along, you're going along and filing and everything seems fine to you, things will be changing on September 15th. So please do go ahead and enroll, follow the guidance on the website. We do walk you through the enrollment process. What we've been talking about today is you need a current CCC and passphrase to enroll. We've tried to give you guidance about how to ensure those things are current. We've tried to give guidance on how you can reset those things if they're not current. That means you need access to a POC email. So those are some of the things we've been trying to talk about today. So I would urge you to go to that EDGAR Next page and peruse the information and guidance that's there.
So I think we answered this, but just to clarify, someone was asking how they can update their company information after September 15th if they can't access retrieve edit data with password. So as of September 15th, all the EDGAR filing websites and they'll require login.gov credentials and multi-factor authentication in order to log on. You will no longer log in with password and CIK. But assuming you have enrolled and you are an authorized user or account administrator for the filer, at that point you can log on with your login.gov credentials. EDGAR will recognize you in your authorized role for that filer. And at that point, you'll have a pull-down list of CIKs for which you'll be able to input the CIK for which you want to take action. And at that point, you can say, look, here's a CIK for I to take action. EDGAR will authenticate you. And then you can go into retrieve edit data and change the company's information that way. So you can still do it, but you'll need to have the credentials. You can't just log on with password and CIK.
So on September 15th at 6 a.m., if you want to get into the EDGAR filing or EDGAR online forms websites, you'll need to have login.gov credentials that you created through the link that's on EDGAR. And then you'll also need to have been authorized by an account administrator for the filer. So that means that the filer has to have enrolled and put account administrators into the system, right? And the account administrator can file, but they can also authorize users to file. But the upshot is that at September 15th at 6 a.m., you want to make a filing. You should have enrolled in EDGAR Next, and whoever it is that's going on to the filing website to make the filing should have login.gov credentials they created through the EDGAR link, as well as being authorized by the account administrators for the filer. Then they'll be able to get into those websites, and then everything else will be the same, okay? With respect to Form ID, if for whatever reason you need to file Form ID and you foresee now that you've got a filing deadline coming up and you need to file Form ID, please go ahead and file Form ID as soon as possible. We are doing our very, very best to catch up with the volume of Form IDs and with the adding staff and trying to do our best to process them as timely as we can. But if you would please do your part by coming to us as soon as you know you're going to need to make a filing, getting the Form ID in, following all the instructions. We have a lot of instructions to help you do it correctly. And if you do it correctly, it's more likely to be processed much more quickly. So it will inure to your benefit in the long run. So just keep in mind, please go now while you still have time, go to the website, read the website, see what pertains to you. If you can get your codes, or if your codes are current, go ahead and enroll, get your account set up now. That's going to save you a lot of time. If you find out you don't have current codes, but you do have a POC email, now's the time to go in there and get your codes current. Okay, take advantage of these couple of weeks that you have in advance of the cutover to get ready for it.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify, I'm seeing a couple of questions asking, how do you get your password or passphrase after you enroll? You really don't need it after you enroll. The point of the passphrase in CCC is to allow you to enroll, and after you enroll, you don't need those credentials anymore.
And with respect to the person that's asking about a whistleblower case, please, please contact the whistleblower office at the SEC. We can't give you any advice on that. I think you can find that on the webpage. I'm sorry for that. You certainly can take advantage also of the tips, complaints, and referral system if that does help. Or you can call the Office of Investor Education and Advocacy. They also have a number they'll answer. Is there any others we can answer quickly, guys? I know we're past time.
I'm just trying to scroll through to see if there's any recurring issues or other ones we can
I see
answer
somebody
quickly.
mentioning again the driver's license for login.gov. So the driver's license for login.gov is for a different authentication level than we're using for EDGAR. So you do not need to provide a U.S. driver's license. You don't need to upload it. We don't need your driver's license number. We're not asking for any of that. You just need to have your email, select the multi-factor authentication method, and you should be able to obtain your login.gov credentials. You should not be applying. Try to go to login.gov through the EDGAR link. That should bring you to the correct authentication level. Perhaps people are going there without using that link.
Oh, you know, one thing I want to mention, there's a question here. If someone changes the CCC, is there a special dispensation for filers during the transition period related to a late filing because the CCC was changed without our knowledge by another person? No, there's no special dispensation. And so once you enroll and are added as a user account admin, you can see the CCC in the dashboard. So once you enroll, you should be able to see it. I guess the tricky thing is if someone jumps the gun and enrolls a client without telling the other parties, and then the other people are surprised and they're not added to the dashboard. So that's what we have to watch out for. So this could happen in the context of like a Section 16 filer who sits on multiple boards, who is a board member of like 3 or 4 issuers, and one of the corporate paralegals runs ahead and registers or enrolls that client, that Section 16 filer, changes the CCC and doesn't tell anyone else. So that's the worst case scenario. So please, if you share the client with someone else, please talk to the client, confirm that who the other parties are, and then agree on a date when enrollment will occur and make sure everyone's notified. So if you rush ahead and enroll the client early, the other people are not going to know and they're going to get upset. Because as part of the enrollment process, I believe the CCC does get reset. So please coordinate with everyone before enrollment.
Quickly, the notifications tab where you can manage the getting emails or not getting emails, it's on the upper right of your dashboard. When you log in, you should see it up there, notifications. If you go in there, you should be able to manage your emails. So a reason to enroll historical filers, that is because we need to move all of our filers over. So if you're still, when you say historical filer, I don't know if you mean that somebody that has been filing and will continue to file. If you're going to continue to file, you'll need to log in with these individual credentials, and you'll need to have a dashboard where people are authorized and where there's a confirmation annually. If you're talking about a defunct account, like a historical meaning. There was once upon a time, there was an EDGAR filer and the CIK still exists, but nobody's ever going to file on it again, then no, there's no need to enroll if that account is never going to be filed on again. And certainly, I suppose if at some point in the future it were to be reactivated, then that filer would need to submit Form ID to regain access to the account. But I'm not sure that what you were meaning there, but that's the upshot.
Yeah, I mean, the last question I want to address is from someone who says, you know, what if it takes some time to get a Form ID processed, but my understanding is a 10-day rule to file Form 3. So if it takes more than 10 days, what should I do? Like an exemption? You know, you're not going to get an exemption. I mean, you need to go ahead. You know, typically, you know that you're going to become a board member in advance, and if so, you should submit a Form ID in advance. There's no point in waiting until the last minute. You know, the minute you know that you have a filing need coming up, you know, please go ahead and reset your credentials and/or submit a Form ID. Don't wait until the last minute.
Thank you all for joining us today. I hope that we were able to answer at least some of your questions. If you do experience errors, if you have additional questions, please do go first to our EDGAR Next page. We have a lot of content there. Please do review that carefully. But if you still have questions, you can contact us through the email address and the telephone number that are listed again on the EDGAR Next page. And this webinar has been recorded and it will be posted, we hope tomorrow if possible, also on the EDGAR Next page. Thank you, everybody, and have a great evening. We really appreciate it.